Hey everybody, it's Manny from Trouble Forge. I am back on Missy at Homesteading Roots back porch, and we are canning. So we have 2 steam juicers set up on the propane burner. We have 3 bushels of apples here that we are going to make apple juice with. I've been getting a ton of questions about how to juice things, so I do have a video up about how to make cherry juice. I have another video about how to use the steam canner. This will be specifically about apple juice. It's really all the same procedure, but I will show you the steps of how to do this. It's really pretty simple. No peeling, coring, any of that kind of stuff. So what we're gonna do first is we're just gonna take these apples, and you can juice whatever apple you want. I mean, they're apples, they're gonna be sweet. Even if you did like a Granny Smith, I feel like there would be a great purpose for it, whether you add like some liquor to it or cook with it or whatever. You can do whatever apples you want. I actually don't even know. Summer Rambos, that's what these are. So we got these last week at the auction. We got a great deal on them. Sat them down in her cold room for, a week or whatever. So we are just gonna cut these into quarters and then throw them into the top of the steam. So as you're going, as with anything else, if you have super bad spots, put them in your chicken bucket, compost, pigs, whatever you do. I wanted to note that you can cut these into like eighths or even slices if you want to kind of speed along the juicing process. But I'm gonna do these in eighths actually. Doesn't take that much longer to do the extra cut. The other thing is, I've made this mistake in the past, and I did this in my applesauce video. We cut all of them. I had like, I don't even know, 5 bushels or something. I cut them all, threw them in buckets, and the steam juicing process is not the quickest. So as they were sitting there, I had to let them sit overnight because it wound up getting too late and they wound up molding. So, word to the wise, cut just what'll fit in your steam basket and then cut the rest as you go. All right. So we got a little bit of juice rolling here. This steamer is a little bit bigger, so it wasn't time to unload that one yet. This one, once it got to be like mush, so I have my mush in here. Once it got to be mush, I just dumped that and ran with the next one. So I've mentioned this before, you can keep filling on top, but it does tend to clog your holes. So I found it's best to, once it gets mushy, just dump it in another bucket and keep rolling with the next batch. So I chopped up some more, threw them in the top, topped off my water on the bottom. As soon as Missy's is ready, we'll put that in the bucket. So our plan is to just put all the juice into 5-gallon buckets, and then when we're done, we'll can it. I may just can mine at home tomorrow or whatever. And then what I'm gonna do with this mush is I'm gonna run it through my food mill tomorrow and try to get some applesauce out of it, and then whatever's left after that, that'll go to the chicken. All right, so this just gives you a look. I just dumped that. We got our juice going into the bucket here. We're working on filling this so that we can mill this off to make some applesauce. Missy is cutting up apples and quartering or eighthing them. Eighthing, is that a word? Eighthering them. So that she can refill hers. As I've mentioned before, the most important thing during this process is that these bottom trays here do not empty of water, because if they do, then it'll burn, and just like if you burn like a pot of applesauce or something, it usually ruins the whole batch because you just can't get rid of that burnt smell. You have to wash everything and start over. So don't ever let your water run out. And this is going to taste amazing. All right. So we have a 3-gallon bucket here of the schlop that came out of the canners. So Bud set up the food mill. I will link in the description the video on how to set up the food mill, because Bud is the pro at this as he throws things all over. So he is gonna run our schlop through the mill so that we can make some applesauce, and then we're gonna feed what's left from that to Missy's chickens. So there's gonna be absolutely 0 waste from this project. Over here, we're working through, okay, so we have 2 bushels of apples left. We have like 2.5 or 3 gallons of juice, and these are full. So I'm excited to see how much we get. And we have another bucket over here of schlop. So lots of things in action. So Bud and Ness are running everything through. The junk is coming out of the chute, and the good stuff's going, watch out, Zoo. The good stuff is going into the bucket, so we'll can this. If you've never had hot applesauce, it's the best. That's going in there, and then our scrap will go in this hole. Vanessa's scooping, Bud is plunging and spinning, and we're moving right along. All right, so a helpful tool when you're doing this is your potato masher. You can use this to mash it down. Don't mash it like too much or too long or whatever, because you could push some mess through the holes in the steam basket. But it is helpful, especially when you're nearing the end. If you're burning on propane, it seems to go a lot faster. We've done this on electric and on propane. Electric definitely seems to take more time. But if you're doing this on propane, once everything is hot, this part should maybe take 15 minutes, I would say. This up here, the consistency will probably get like mashed potato-ish. It'll almost kind of be like light and airy. And when you mash it down, you'll kind of know like, okay, it's time to dump. So just a little tip on how you know when it's time to add it to the bucket. You're basically gonna get this, I mean, your skins. And so this is the other, you know, we don't have to peel and core and all that because none of that's gonna go down into our juice. And when they put it through the mill, all of that's going out the scrap chute, so you don't have to worry about all that extra labor. All right, friends, so it's the next morning. We didn't get into bed until like 1:30. We finally finished up at Missy's a little before midnight. Dishes done and the whole deal. So we wound up with almost 20 gallons of product. When you divide all of it out, we're gonna be at about 50 cents of content per jar. So you put in a lid and like the little bit of propane we used, maybe 75 cents a jar, depending on what you can get lids for. So we packaged everything up in buckets. So I have 4 buckets of varying fullnesses here to process. So I am going to start with applesauce. I have 2 water bath panners set up. I have some clean jars ready to go. I'm gonna put the applesauce into the jars. We're gonna process quarts for 20 minutes. All right, so I have most of the applesauce done. I have a few more jars over here. I'm doing the juice. You may find, depending on what kind of apples you had or whatever, that you need to strain it. So I have a strainer on top of a bucket with a flour sack towel. I'm gonna run the juice through just to get out any of those little fine particles so the juice is nice and smooth. All right, so this whole process took us, I don't know, 36 hours, maybe, give or take. You know, obviously we slept in there, but across the whole thing, about 36 hours. So my last 4 quarts of juice are in the canner from our 8 half bushel boxes. So I spent $5 a box. We spent $5 a box on a half bushel box. So we got 4 bushels for $40, right? Yeah, 4 bushels for $40. We got 71 quarts of applesauce or apple juice from those 4 bushels, which is pretty crazy. So we paid about 50 cents per jar, which I just think is nuts. I mean, and this is like high quality, locally grown. I don't know for sure that these weren't sprayed, but I'm guessing that they weren't just based on the way they looked. We have apple trees here at our property, which I've talked about before, and they sort of have that same appearance. I don't know for sure. They were grown by a local grower. We supported a local grower. We didn't add any sugar or junk, so it's fine with my soul. So, did you hear that ping? So, we got some juice out of this. We got some applesauce out of this. I was not planning on canning more applesauce this year. I have like 100 quarts on the shelf, which is more than sufficient for us. That gives us like 2 quarts a week for the next year. But now I have another 47 quarts, I think, of applesauce to add to the shelf, which means we'll probably be having 3 quarts of applesauce a week, which is fine because when all 6 of us are home, or if we take one to share with another family or whatever, take some to our parents, it'll be fine. There'll be plenty to go around. We all love applesauce. You can use applesauce for so many things, marinating pork chops and things like that. So, and honestly, I could make some of this into fruit leather at some point or whatever. It's super versatile because we didn't add anything to it. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing the steam juicer in action again. It just has so many great ways you can use it, and then that we didn't waste any of that pulp, went into the mill, and we seriously had a peck basket left from the auction, like a cardboard peck, and that's all the scraps we had from 4 bushels of apples. That's pretty crazy. All of that went to Missy's chickens and they gobbled it up in no time. So there was absolutely 0 waste from this project. So if you have questions about this, I will link a couple other videos in the description about how to make applesauce, how to use the steam juicer. I always want to say steam canner, steam juicer. So if any questions, you can look at those videos, shoot me a message. We'll see you next time.